Welcome to Artifact Explorations with the Kelsey Museum of Archaeology. Today, we are all about hieroglyphics. Around the same time that cuneiform was being developed as a writing system in Mesopotamia, about 3100 BCE, a different writing system was being developed in ancient Egypt, hieroglyphics, where cuneiform was used for administrative purposes as well as recording literature, medical texts, and personal letters. Hieroglyphs were used only for sacred or royal writing. These included inscriptions on buildings, royal decrees, wall paintings, and anything monumental that was meant to last a long time. The oldest example of hieroglyphics come from Dynasty 0 tombs found at the cemetery at Abydos, one of the most important archaeological sites in ancient Egypt. Abydos is the site of the royal necropolis, burial site, for the early kings. It is important to remember that hieroglyphics is a writing system, not a language. The system of hieroglyphics was a combination of logograms, where a symbol represents a word, ideograms, where a symbol represents an idea or concept, and phonetic sounds, where a symbol represents a sound. During the dynastic period, around 3100 to 332 BCE, there were approximately 800 symbols in use. By the end of the Hellenistic period, 332 to 30 BCE, there were over 5,000 symbols in use. Can you imagine going to school and having to learn 5,000 different symbols? It is also important to remember that the literacy rate in ancient Egypt is thought to be about 1%. So who is all of this writing really for? Let's take a closer look at some of these hieroglyphs. What sort of symbols do you see? We often see representations from the natural world. We see a lot of animals, and we can even identify different species of birds from the detailed depictions. This artifact here is a fragment of a false door from the tomb of a gentleman named Kar. We can see Kar right here. Kar was an important official in the 6th dynasty, 2407 to 2260 BCE, under the king Pepy I. The false door was not actually a door, but a sculpture to look like a door, and was where the family and friends of Kar would come and leave offerings for him. The false door is also where Kar's ba, the part of him that could leave his body and travel, would enter and exit the tomb. What sort of symbols do you see? We see animals, body parts, shapes of tools, and even musical instruments. In short, we see images of things that the ancient Egyptians saw every day. What do you think this tells us about the ancient Egyptians? Now, let's learn to read some hieroglyphics. To begin, what direction should we read them in? Right to left, left to right, top to bottom, bottom to top? The trick is looking at all of the creatures and people in the hieroglyphs. If you look closely, they all face in the same direction. In this case, they are facing to the right, which means that this panel we read from top to bottom. We always read top to bottom, and we read the right column and then the left column, because we reading into the face of the animals and people. If the animals were facing in the other direction, we would then read this column from the top to bottom, left to right. Oftentimes, especially on doors, we see the hieroglyphs on either side of the doors, both facing the center. The Egyptians liked symmetry, as we can see here from this illustration of the full layout of Kar's false door. Let's take a closer look at some of these symbols. In hieroglyphs, whenever we see a circle with a line across the bottom, we know that the symbols inside are a name of either a king or a god. This symbol is called a cartouche. Inside the cartouche, we see repeating symbols. So knowing what we know about how to read these hieroglyphs, let's start from the top and we go to the bottom. So we have these two things that look like either a field or maybe a bundle of sticks. And that is the phonetic sound for P. The feathers beneath the two fields are the phonetic sound E or E. So, top to bottom, right to left, we see Pe, Pe, or Pepy. We know that Car was an official of King Pepy I. Directly above the cartouche, we see the symbol that looks like a guitar. This is a logogram, which means that the symbol represents a word. In this case, Nefer, which means beloved. Directly above the guitar, we see a horned viper. This is an ideogram, which represents the idea of a nickname. Moving up, we have this bird, the mouth, and the bucket. Those three symbols together are actually the name of Car. And we can see this grouping of symbols repeated in several places, like down here, right next to the representation of Car. So putting that all together, we have written on Car's false door, Car, whose nickname was Beloved of Pepy. So Car was important enough to be allowed to put the name of the king on his tomb. We hope you enjoyed today's artifact exploration and learning a little bit more about hieroglyphics. We hope you join us again soon.